Good morning, and thank you for joining us for our networking and building your personal brand using LinkedIn in the new digital environment. I do have a few slides to share with you this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and pop over to those. Hopefully you can see those this morning, and I'm going to go ahead and open up. Hello. There we go. So I can see if anybody joins. Well, good morning. I will encourage you to turn your videos on, but keep yourselves muted if you're not speaking. It just creates a better Zoom experience for us all. Also, if you want to switch over to speaker view or gallery view, if you're not sure where to get that, it should be in the top right-hand corner of your screen. You can do a side-by-side of these slides and the either speaker or gallery, or feel free to not look at any videos if that's what you choose. I would like to thank our sponsors, Akron Children's Hospital, Rouse McDowell, Huntington, Retzel, State and Federal Communications, and KeyBank. Thank you very much for your ongoing support of the Chamber, of WNLI, and of our events and activities. I wanted to make sure you guys all were aware of an upcoming opportunity, a few upcoming opportunities I'm going to tell you about. First is our Leading with Strengths program. Leading with Strengths is one of our core curriculums that we offer. We are so excited to offer a new format for fall of 2021. We've transitioned the session from a 6-course experience to a 2-course experience. So for this fall, rather than having to commit to 6 dates, we have 2 dates. They're a little bit longer and it's going to be a little bit more intense, but that way we're all very busy, we know. And so hopefully you can take 2 days out and join us. We have our first cohort starting September 21st. The second cohort is going to be in October, and then the third in November. September and October are both in person. They're going to be held either in the GAC event space and Rouse McDowell's conference room, and then November will be held virtually. So if you haven't gone through the Leading with Strengths, Authentic Leadership Leading with Strength course, we do encourage you to check that out. And all of our sessions have been facilitated for the past few seasons of that by Dr. Jennifer Savitsky, and she will continue to be our facilitator this fall. We hope you can join us next month for our meetup. We're going to be featuring Dr. Tracy Brower, and once again, we will be having 2 options, both the in-person in the event space and then the virtual option. And I'll drop some links in the chat for all of these in just a minute. A few other events that we have coming up. So if you haven't heard about our groundwater approach, Understanding Racial Inequity, we have Friday, September 17th. It's a half-a-day session. It is a virtual session. We do have very limited spots remaining. I want to say we have less than 10 remaining. So if you're interested, be sure to go to the GAC website today. Unfortunately, we are limited to how many that we can take. So once we're full, we are full. That's really going to be a great session. We have an outside group coming in to do that training. And then we hope that you can join us Thursday, October 7th in person at Canal Park. We are going to be honoring our 30 for the Future recipients. We have 30 young professionals under 40 for this year. And then we're also going to be taking a look back at the past 14 years. I know we have a few past 30 for the Future honorees on the call. If you are and you have your video on, give a little wave. I think we have a few current as well. So we're excited to celebrate everyone. It'll be a big celebration. One of the things with Canal Park that we're really excited for is it's going to be a beautiful day. If I keep putting it out there, it'll happen. It's going to be a beautiful day, but it will allow for everyone's comfort level of social distancing, even while eating and drinking. So ballpark can fit thousands. We do expect a good number of people, but it won't be, everyone will be able to keep their comfortable distance for that. So we hope you can join us there. And then I want to introduce today's speaker, Margaret Jordan. We are thrilled to have Margaret with us. Margaret is experienced in business development strategy, lead generation, project management, and growth development for businesses. Her industry experience includes work with manufacturers, contractors, private equity firms, agribusiness, and more. Margaret holds a JD from the University of Akron School of Law, as well as a Master of Science degree in higher education. and a Bachelor of Arts degree in English Literature from UA. She serves on the board for the Association of Corporate Growth and is chair of the organization's Women in Transactions Committee. Additionally, Margaret volunteers her time as an active member of the Board of Directors for Access, an emergency shelter for homeless women and children. Outside of the office, Margaret enjoys spending time with her husband and 4 dogs. She is a lifetime resident of Northeast Ohio, and I'm very excited. Please join with me in welcoming Margaret Jordan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with my PowerPoint presentation. Let's see here. How do I go back? Okay. So today's presentation is going to be about networking and building your personal brand in the new virtual environment. I don't know about you, but this whole pandemic has made life difficult for me, especially in terms of doing business in the way that I used to. And so initially, once I realized that the restaurants were going to be shutting down and we were going to have mask requirements and social distancing, I realized that I was going to have to make some changes in the way that I did my job, especially in terms of relationship building and networking, because the traditional networking events were not going to be an option for me. So I realized quickly that I needed to make some changes and develop some new techniques. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So thank you all for joining us. I can't seem to, okay, there we go. Now I can see everything at once. So now I'm going to advance, having some, okay, there we go. I can see and advance a screen. Very good. A few housekeeping tips. Feel free to use the chat feature if you have any questions, or feel free to unmute yourself and jump in if you have a question or a comment or something you'd like to share. We'll keep this very conversational and informal. I don't want it to be just me talking at you. Hopefully we can have a conversation about some of the things that you've experienced and that have worked for you. So on our agenda today, we're going to talk about personal branding. What is it and how to develop your personal brand. And then we're going to talk about networking in this new virtual environment, leveraging LinkedIn, and we'll have some question and answer at the end, but please feel free to ask questions as we go as well. So what is personal branding? This is something that I'd heard about a long time ago from one of my mentors and friends. And I thought now is really the time to focus on this more than ever, because we're trying to differentiate ourselves and create relationships in this 2D environment instead of a 3D environment. To define personal branding, it's the conscious and intentional effort to create and influence public perception of an individual by positioning them as an authority in their industry, elevating their credibility, and differentiating themselves from the competition to ultimately advance their career, increase their circle of influence, and have a larger impact. So this encompasses everything, but for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to focus on personal branding in terms of your career and your professional development, but it also does play a role in your personal life as well, depending on which mediums you're using in terms of social media and other formats, if you're in social networking groups versus professional networking groups, etc. So your unique personal brand, some things to think about. How are you perceived by others? And how do you want to be perceived by others? That's something that I think about a lot, from the way that I dress, to the way that I wear my hair, to the way that I am prepared for things, to the background that I use in my presentations. Now, I have to give you guys a little bit of an anecdote. So I am in a hotel right now in Columbus on my way to a conference. So I do not have my preferred background, and I'm making do with what I have. But Anna, for example, has an excellent background. It shows her personality. It shows what she's interested in. It's it's fresh, it's fun, and it really encompasses Xana's personality, I think. So your background is important in how you want to be perceived. Being prepared, even if we are in a 2D world, by being dressed, having your hair done, your makeup done, some jewelry, something to show your unique individuality is important. What is your digital persona? One thing that I recommend doing is conducting a digital audit of yourself. How many of you, and I can't see your hands probably, but how many of you have ever conducted a Google search to see what's on the internet about you? It's a really good idea to do that, to see what comes up both under Google and Google Images, also under news, to see what articles are out there about you, what mentions are out there. And then if there is a problem or something that you don't like, or that you feel is not representative of you professionally or personally, then you can take steps to get that removed. It's not always easy, but at least knowing that it's out there and knowing what other people are going to see if they do that Google search of you is very important. And protecting your personal brand, making sure that you know what's being posted, checking your permissions on social media so that people aren't sharing pictures of you that are unflattering. For example, I'm always a little bit conscious about my weight. I don't want people posting pictures of me eating food. I just don't like that. So, making sure that that isn't happening, making sure that people aren't sharing things from 20 years ago that aren't representative of who you are now. Maybe you had a bad haircut. It could be something as simple as that, but it can also be something where maybe there was something that happened at a past job that's posted, or something on a Reddit board or something. It's good to know what's out there. One thing that I do to keep an eye on what is being posted on the internet about me is I have set up a Google what is it? Oh, it's a Google word search that comes to my email. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. And it tells me if something's been posted about me, a Google notification. So I'll get an email saying that Margaret Jordan has been mentioned, and then I could check real quick to see if it's the right Margaret Jordan or if it's somebody else. I also have one set up with my maiden name. You can do that through Google, and you set up a Google word search. You can do it for businesses that you work at, or prospects that you're looking at developing, to see what news comes up about them. It's just a good way to keep an eye on what's being posted and shared. Google alert. Thank you, Nicole. Yes, I haven't had enough coffee this morning. So that's a great way to keep an eye out to see what's going on the internet about you. So 10 rules for creating your personal brand. And these are just rules that I came up with, but it's very important that you focus on what you're trying to accomplish. For me, personally, I'm in business development. I'm constantly trying to develop new business, new opportunities, revenue, either for my company or for nonprofits that I'm passionate about. And that is always top of mind. I want to always put that best foot forward. I want to tell the story of why whatever I'm either selling or raising money for has a value proposition. What is the reason to choose either my business or that organization? Be genuine, be yourself. There's no reason to be anyone else. And that will come through, that you're genuine and that you're honest about who you are and what your passions are and what you believe in. And be consistent. It's really easy to be consistent when you're being genuine and you're being passionate about what it is that you're trying to share. Be ready to fail. Sometimes things just don't work, and that's okay. But the only way you're going to know what works is by trying and either succeeding or failing. Sharing things that maybe someone will get upset and you'll realize, oh, I crossed the line there. Or maybe nobody responds and you realize no one's interested in this, or that's not the right medium to share that information. There's very different audiences, for example, on LinkedIn versus Facebook and Instagram. Follow a successful example. There's a lot of people that are really, really good at creating their personal brand. Some people to think about following on a national level are politicians. Michelle Obama, for example, is very good at creating and sticking with her personal brand. She has her passion projects. She has her things that she's involved with. But then it could even be somebody local or a newscaster or someone in business that you admire, either locally or nationally. I watch TED Talks to see how people conduct themselves in the TED Talk arena. I follow a lot of people on LinkedIn to see what topics are of interest, how they're sharing, what their techniques are, and live your brand. But that goes right back to being genuine, being honest, being consistent, and telling your story. And let other people tell your story. One of the best ways to know that you've succeeded is to find that other people are telling your story, that are talking about you. One of the best compliments that I've ever received is from a boss who said that I'm a Swiss Army knife. And I think that's a really cool compliment, to say that someone is a Swiss Army knife, because it means they can do a lot of different things well, and that they're useful and valuable to the organization. And leave a legacy. Make sure that you're teaching others, mentoring others, helping bring up the next generation, no matter what their age. Maybe it's a stay-at-home mom who's just getting back into the workplace. I really think it's important to be a mentor and to give a hand up to help others, because I've had a lot of really good people help me. So that's something that I think is super important, by passing on information, passing on lessons that you've learned, and helping other people develop their personal brand and become celebrities in their own field. So transitioning from the personal brand to networking in a virtual world, I think having a strong personal brand will make networking in this virtual world a lot easier. It's not going to be the end all be all, but it is going to help as you navigate virtual conferences, virtual events like this. Here are some of the keys that I came up with over the past year and a half for networking in this virtual environment, which is all new to us. Even though we've been doing it for about a year and a half, it's still pretty new. Embrace technology. One thing that I found is that there are lots of different streaming platforms, lots of different video conferencing platforms. I need to be familiar with all of them. I need them to work on my computer. If your computer's not working, your internet's not working, maybe it's time to upgrade, talk to your service provider about a higher speed. Maybe it's time to get a new computer unit. Sometimes they go out of date pretty fast these days. So keeping up with technology, new advances, buying a webcam, buying lighting, those are all things that I did early on in the pandemic and experimented with to see what worked best. Whenever possible, use video. One thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people shy away from video. I know it's really easy to do. I prefer not to put makeup on and comb my hair and just wear a ponytail and sweats, but it really is the best way to connect in this virtual environment. Sharing a conversation face-to-face in person is the best, but this is the next best thing. If you can't use video because you're having problems with the internet, I recommend making sure that you have a picture on your Zoom screen, so it's not just your name or an initial, so people can at least see who they're interacting with. Be strategic about video conferences. Like I said, consider your background, consider what you're sharing in your background about yourself and your beliefs. If you're working to be really professional, set up that professional background intentionally so that you're sharing things that are meaningful, that really help exemplify your personal brand. Once again, make sure your technology works. Anna and I got on about 20 minutes early today because I'm in a hotel and I'm nervous about the technology. We made sure we did a dry run, making sure I could share my slides, and it just makes things so much easier. Eliminate distractions and interruptions. Make sure you turn your phone on silent. We've all gotten used to dogs barking, so I don't think that's something we can really control, especially with Amazon coming to the door every day 10 times. But I do, for example, go in a room with a door that I can close. That way they're not nipping at my heels or trying to get on my lap. If I'm lazy and I sit on the couch, then there's dogs all over the place, and it's evident that I'm not serious about what I'm doing and my focus is not 100% there. Be intentional about your appearance. Do a test run, see how you look, see how the lighting is. Make sure that you're sending the intentional vibe that you're trying to send. You don't want to look like you're on vacation in a job interview, for example. I actually had a candidate interview for a job, and he was on vacation and he was wearing a t-shirt and shorts. You could see that he was at the beach, and he kept sipping his coffee super loud. And I just thought, this guy's not serious about this job. This is a high level position, and he can't be troubled to put on a shirt and maybe a a sport coat and set up his background a little better. So that gave me the idea that he really wasn't serious about the position, and needless to say, he did not get an offer. So be intentional about your appearance, no matter where you are and what time of day it is. Tailor that depending on what the nature of the video conference is. Figure out how you can provide value for people you know. One thing that I did early on is figure out that you have to give to get. Old school networking, where you're shaking hands at an event and trading phone numbers of people that you can refer people to, isn't going to happen as easily. You have to be intentional. I've had some people that I've set up regular calls with about networking. We've shared our prospect list. We've talked about a game plan on how we can help each other. And then we set up a follow-up call so that there is that activity between calls and that we're holding each other accountable. And then I try to invite people to go to things. If I see something they might be interested, it can just be as simple as sharing a message with them. Hey, I saw this. I thought you might be interested. Would you like to go as my guest? Those are all ways you can reconnect and reach out and stay in front of people without being in the 3D in-person event space. Be on the lookout for networking opportunities. I have my different organizations that I follow, like the Women's Network, the Chamber, the Association for Corporate Growth, which I'm a member of, and other organizations that I constantly check to see what's on the calendar, see what events are coming up, and make sure that I have at least 1 or 2 networking opportunities a week, in addition to some one-on-ones. Don't let your new connections go cold. So some of you may connect today and you might meet each other. One way to stay connected is to connect through LinkedIn or to send them an email message. Maybe set up a time to talk and to get to know each other over a virtual coffee or happy hour in the next week or so. And then continue to stay in touch in a way that you agree is appropriate and comfortable. Some people I text with, some people I message through Facebook Messenger, some people I email. It depends on how you mutually decide you want to communicate. And be nimble and explore new things, even if they may not be comfortable. And try different opportunities. Virtual events are not my favorite, but I've tried them. I've gone in the virtual networking area and reached out to people. I've set up one-on-ones. So, try new things, try new ways of communicating. Like I said, some things may not work. Some things will work perfectly. It's really a trial and error process. Keep your vision top of mind. What are your goals? What is your strategy? And prioritize those. Maybe your goal, like me, is to develop new business or sales, to grow your income, to grow your professional network. Or maybe it's just to stay in touch and to feel connected to the community and to make new friends. Doesn't have to be a lofty, high goal that's attached to revenue or money. Maybe you're just trying to make 5 new contacts this year, make a new meaningful friend, stay connected, give back to the community. Whatever those goals are, keep them top of mind and prioritize those goals. Keep in touch with your contacts and communities via social media, emails, phone calls, texts, and video conferencing. And it really should be a blend of all those things. Following community organizations and businesses on social media is a great way to see what's going on, read their press releases, see if someone's gotten an award. maybe an organization is having a fundraiser that you want to take part in, or a community event that'll help you feel connected. I know that a lot of us are working from home and it feels a little bit isolating. So getting out and going to a social event like the 30 for the Future celebration or Pride Week, the Pride event, can really help make you feel less alone during this virtual time at home and during the pandemic. Get involved or stay involved in the community, nonprofits, industry groups, and professional associations. These have really been my lifeline during this pandemic. Picking 2 or 3 organizations that I feel strongly about and that I feel that there's value in for me and that where I can provide value has been just unbelievable. Otherwise, if I hadn't have done that, I think I would feel very alone, a bit lost and disconnected from the community. So I definitely recommend making a to-do list, prioritizing what your goals are and how you're going to achieve those goals in terms of growing your network and growing your connections. Post regularly and make it part of your daily routine to spend a little time each day connecting with COIs, which I refer to as centers of influence or referral sources, coworkers, friends, family, people that mean a lot to you. I'm connected to my former professors at the university, people that I haven't seen since high school, but because of the social network and the social media, I feel very connected to them and I know what's going on in their life and we're able to support each other, which is really nice. And I think that even doing something as small as logging on every morning and wishing people a happy birthday, if it's their birthday, I use LinkedIn to congratulate people on their work anniversaries, their new promotions that they've gotten or new jobs. Those are all really good ways just to stay front and center and to stay connected. So we've talked a little bit about LinkedIn. I keep bringing it up. I'm an early adopter of LinkedIn. I think I've been using LinkedIn since probably 2004 or 2006. And LinkedIn is a powerful online platform that connects the world's professionals. I like to say that it's a virtual Rolodex. And the reason I say that is because it keeps people, everyone keeps their own personal contact information up to date. I don't have to do that anymore. I know some of you are probably too young to even know what a Rolodex is, but I used to have one with business cards in it. And believe it or not, I had an admin that kept it up for me. Boy, where did those days go? Now they throw the Rolodex at your head if you ask them to do something like that. But I like LinkedIn because it keeps everybody up to date. I can keep track of their job changes, their email, their contact information, and I can see what they're passionate about and what they're working on and congratulate them and support them. Through your profile, you can showcase your professional life, your milestones, your skills, your interests. This goes back to that personal brand. So this is really a good starting point for your personal and professional branding. Over 8.2 million C-level professionals have LinkedIn profiles and over 500 members worldwide. So it's a really vast, well-known, it's the gold standard for professional networking online. Now, something to remember, LinkedIn is not Facebook. It's not a dating site. It's not a place to share jokes, memes, or selfies. And it's not a place to sell your personal items. I've encountered all of these things on LinkedIn and they're all equally annoying. I still have to remind myself sometimes not to share, a meme that I think is interesting or something political that I'm passionate about. And I just last night thought I have some concert tickets that I'm dying to sell for a concert tonight that I can't use. And I thought maybe I should share them on LinkedIn. And then I'm like, no, don't do it. It's not appropriate. So, just keeping that top of mind, what LinkedIn's for, and keeping those social media platforms separate is very important. So optimizing your profile, and feel free to look at my profile and connect with me. Not that my profile is perfect by any means. There's lots of people that have better profiles, but you can use mine or someone else that you find that's really has a nice profile that's been professionally done. Heads of law firms, heads of banks, usually have marketing teams that help with theirs, and they're really well done. Accounting firms do a nice job with theirs too. So most professional service people, executives, have really nice profiles. So it's important to play around with your profile. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you can work on this in your own time. And we'll send you a PDF of these slides so that you have these tips and tricks on how to do it. One thing that I want to point out, it says that you can personalize your banner. So your banner is behind your picture, and a lot of companies will have their own banner. So for example, I worked at Sikich, which is an accounting firm, and they had a really nice banner that I could use. If your company doesn't have one, you can get the specs off of LinkedIn to have one designed, and then that way you can put one up, or you can use something as simple as the city of Akron skyline. I've used that before, and I think that's a really nice thing to spotlight where you're from and then your professional picture. So that's what the banner is. And it's important to make sure that you use a nice professional headshot, not a selfie that's been taken in your car or where it looks like you don't have a shirt on. I've seen those before. So it's really important to make sure that you use a photo that's representative of you professionally on LinkedIn. Top 10 checklist. So some things to keep in mind as you're working on your LinkedIn profile. Your headline can be 120 characters, and you can get to all of these by opening your LinkedIn profile and then clicking on the little pencil, which allows you to edit it. Your headline can be something like, personal or professional sales executive and change agent, or something that captures what you do and what you want to be attached to your personal brand that's representative. It doesn't have to mention your current employer or a specific position. It can be more abstract and more of a tagline or a small elevator pitch. You'll want to list your current position, your title, and your employer. Your summary should be written in first person, and it should be no more than 2,000 characters, which is plenty. Your contact information should be available. Now, I noticed that there's a bit of debate about whether or not it should be your personal email or your work email. The only reason I would list your personal email is if you're actively job seeking and you don't want emails going through your work email account. Otherwise, I think if you're conducting business using LinkedIn and you're not doing anything outside of that, I think having your professional email is a better option. So I always am glad to see somebody's professional email versus a Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail. I think that makes them look a little bit sketchy. So, and it makes me think they're probably job searching. You can create your own URL, which is created for you with your first name and last name after LinkedIn. Any media articles, things that have been posted about you, you can share. Your experience should be written in first person, your skills and endorsements. Now, this is very important. Endorsements are something that you have to give to get typically. So if you want to have a few endorsements from key people, you probably should offer to write one for them or write one for them. And then sometimes you have to directly ask someone to write one for you. It's just how things work. Nobody's sitting around thinking, gee whiz, who should I endorse today on LinkedIn? It's kind of something like asking for a reference. You have to be intentional about it. You have to be willing to ask. But I always value seeing some endorsements on someone's LinkedIn because it makes me think, A, they're legitimate. Other people that I know them and they like them. And B, it shows that, they've spent some time on LinkedIn and that they're intentional about their profile. Showing your accomplishments, interests, education is important. You do not have to list your graduation dates. That will allow people to age you and potentially discriminate against you. So you really don't need to add the years, but it is good to put your college and your degrees that you have. Your high school is good too. I keep in touch with people from all the way from grade school, high school, college, grad school, past employers, organizations that I've served on boards and as a volunteer. And that really helps grow your network. Through doing that, I have a network of over, I think, 3,400 people. And the name of the game with LinkedIn, in addition to posting and sharing, is making sure that you have a lot of first degree connections, because then you can connect to other people. If you don't have a lot of first degree connections, it's going to make it hard to expand your circle, because people won't accept you. They won't, you can't request someone who's maybe a third degree contact. So you want a lot of first degree contacts so you can get second degree contacts. And there is a debate about whether or not you should actually know personally everyone that's a contact on LinkedIn. That's up to you. You can decide to keep it close and make sure you have actually met everyone and know everyone. It depends what you're trying to accomplish, because I'm in business development and I'm trying to connect with C-level decision makers. I have a lot of connections on there that I've met once, or that I've just talked to on the phone or emailed. Some are on my prospect list that I want them to see our thought leadership that I'm sharing. So I may not know them directly, but they know some people that I know, and they're comfortable connecting with me because of my background, because of where I work, and because of my other connections. Then there's people that are LinkedIn open networkers. You may see next to their name, it says Lion. And those are people that will connect with anyone. I think in this day and age, that's a little bit risky, especially if you're putting your work email, because then you run the risk of phishing scams and other people and other things, people harassing you. I've had people try and use it as a dating site. So I would be a little more cautious than a LinkedIn open networker, but it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. And all of those things are to be considered as you're developing and refining your profile. Got some summary templates here. I will move quickly over these, but like I said, we'll send these out to you afterwards so that you can use them. And as you're working on your profile, peruse other people's profiles, see what you like, what you don't like. I would recommend writing your profile in Word so that you can check it for grammar and spelling, and then cut and paste it into LinkedIn so that you don't have a lot of errors. This is one for a position that was at my prior company that I think is very strong. It shows the experience that the person has, how long they've been there, and the work that they did. So it really shows the depth and breadth of their job and their responsibilities. Skills and endorsements we mentioned. There's a drop down that you can go through to pick your skills. Make sure you spend some time on this, because I think that all of us will find that we have a lot more skills than we think we do. So spend some time going through and checking those boxes, and then ask a few key people for endorsements. But once again, you have to give to get. Posting is super important in order to stay in the news feed and stay top of mind. You do not have to create your own content in order to do this. It's really important not to get overwhelmed. You can share articles. There's a lot of information that you can get directly from LinkedIn. If you follow companies, if you follow influencers, you can just reshare their content and say, interesting article. I know that one of the topics that I like to read about is work-life balance. It's something I'm not very good at. So when I see an article that I think could benefit my fellow colleagues or friends, I will share that. Or if it's something new and novel, in the past year and a half, there's been a lot of novel things about the pandemic and the CARES Act and legal changes and things that business owners I'm working with might find to be top of mind or interesting or helpful. So I'll share that information. So it doesn't have to be anything that labor intensive. You can just share something that you've read or that's interesting. A lot of websites and news articles, even in the local newspaper, will have the little buttons for sharing on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you could just pick where you want to share it. I also maintain a LinkedIn account, a Twitter account that I usually share things to simultaneously. And you can do that through LinkedIn as well. You don't need fancy social sharing software to do that. who should I connect with? And we've talked about this, so I'll go quickly over this, but I think it's really important to keep in touch with past classmates, especially my classmates from college that are working in companies that I want to develop relationships with. Co-workers from different companies that I've worked at, including my current company. I do not typically connect with co-workers on Facebook or Instagram. Try and keep a little bit of separation there, and keep my social media a little bit more relaxed versus LinkedIn. Clients, if appropriate, it depends on if it's a HIPAA or FERPA violation, depending on where you work. If you work at the university, you may not want to connect with students that you're teaching, or if you're in a healthcare environment. Centers of influence, for me, centers of influence are bankers, accountants, insurance people, people that work with business owners, wealth managers, that can refer people to me who need legal advice and guidance. Prospects, I maintain prospect lists, and I continuously go through and make sure I'm connected to them on LinkedIn if possible. Past coworkers and employers, and potential employees or employers. I do a lot of searching for potential employees using LinkedIn. I search for certain jobs and expertise in Northeast Ohio. You can do it geographically. You can search all kinds of things, and then I'll connect with those people and send them a note through the message function to see if they're interested in having a conversation about future employment. Like I said, exercise caution when connecting with people you don't know or that work at competitor firms or companies. One thing that you do if you compete with someone, if you're competing with someone and you're connected to them, you open them up to all of your connections. Your connections become their second degree connections and can very quickly become their first degree connections. So that's something to think about. We will skip this part. We don't need to practice because I want to make sure we have enough time for questions and discussion. But today, at some point, take a few minutes to find some content and share a post that is of interest to you. Feel free to connect with me. I probably won't be as active in the next day or two because I'm at a conference, but I will be online and sharing things. And I will connect with you. And then follow a company or organization that is of interest to you. The Greater Akron Chamber would be a good one if you're not already following it. And then endorse a peer or a coworker. If you do these three things, that'll really kickstart your LinkedIn activity and your personal brand on LinkedIn. Some other best practices: download the LinkedIn app. I can't see your hands, but how many of you have the LinkedIn app on your smartphone? Very good. I personally like to have the apps on my phone so that if I'm sitting in a doctor's office waiting to get in, or I'm waiting on a ride share, or I'm in line at the grocery store, I can use that time to check in, see what's going on, congratulate someone on a promotion, wish them a happy birthday. A lot of that activity that I do on LinkedIn actually happens during spare time in between things using my smartphone. And you can also share content through that, the app. The app is actually very good. And then I use it in meetings. Occasionally someone will say, hey, do you know so-and-so? And I'll look them up. Or if I'm going to meet someone for lunch and I've never seen them before, it helps me figure out who I'm meeting and what they look like, because sometimes that's tricky too. Like and share others' updates, send messages, and you can also coordinate phone or virtual meetings with people. I've had a lot of people reach out to me during the pandemic to say, hey, do you have a few minutes to talk? Can we schedule a meeting? And one thing that I've been using that's been a really cool tool recently is it's called Calendly. And you can share your Outlook calendar and the openings in your calendar, and then they can pick a time for the meeting and it automatically goes on your calendar. And you can set it up to schedule a Microsoft Teams or a Zoom meeting. So that's a really cool tool. You could use that in coordination with LinkedIn to schedule meetings. That way there isn't a lot of back and forth about openings and times. And if you're like me, I'm scheduling 4 or 5 meetings at once, and I'll give people a bunch of times, and then I'll schedule those times, and then they'll come back to me and say, is this time still available? And I've already booked it. So this avoids all of that. So it's called Calendly. If you Google it, you can get a free trial, and it's not very expensive to use on a monthly basis. I found it to be a really cool tool for scheduling. And viewing people's profiles, I always do that before I go to meet with someone that I don't know or don't know very well. It's always interesting to see who we know in common. So you have some talking points. You can also see some of their interests, so that you have a couple of small talk topics ready to go in your pocket. It makes things so much easier. And like I said, celebrate milestones, and endorsements are super important. Some other best practices for LinkedIn: keep an eye on industry trends and follow companies, prospects, and competitors. This is a great tool for this. You know, a lot of people have business intelligence software that they pay for. It's really not, you know, this is something that you can do for free using LinkedIn. You can use the advanced search to search for people in specific industries or positions. I'm always looking for general counsel, CFOs, CEOs, owners. Make sure you proofread your posts, make sure they're timely, accurate, and appropriate. And I would also add to probably stay away from political topics, religious issues. These days, vaccines are very political, and along party lines, vaccine politics, I would avoid that as well. Stick with things that are factual and news related, that are not likely to upset your connections. Join LinkedIn groups and share thought leadership with that group when appropriate. I know that I'm a part of several LinkedIn groups, including a nonprofit executive group, a group for development officers that I stay in touch with, to share information about fundraising, to ask questions, to see what the trends are. So there's some really cool LinkedIn groups out there that you can join. Connect with people at other levels. Your connections do not have to be only at your level. I say this especially for the young professionals in the room, or people that are just getting started with their career. You do not need to be intimidated to connect with someone who is a CEO or a C-suite executive at a company. That's not nearly as important as people think it is. So feel free to connect. Follow what they do, read their articles. Most people will be willing to connect with you. And think of LinkedIn to broaden your network and horizons. So like I mentioned before, you can leverage LinkedIn for business development and professional development. Your summary should be your elevator pitch, something that tells who you are, what you do, and what your skills are, and what you have to offer. Your activity is how you touch on recent events and share thought leadership. What I mean by thought leadership is it's a fancy term of art for marketing materials or news stories, things that help your constituents that are following you on LinkedIn, or that may be of value, either personally or professionally. It can be health and fitness related, it can be time management, stress reduction, or it can be something that's a more technical topic, like a tax issue or a legal issue or an update. And then your interests are how you engage in small talk. I know that I really try and stay current with pop culture, news, things of the day, so that even sports, so that I can engage in small talk with people when I meet with them or talk to them in this virtual environment. So before your next in-person or virtual meeting, definitely take 20 to 30 minutes to prepare for that meeting. Peruse through the profiles of those people that you're meeting with. go through your LinkedIn feed and go to the company's LinkedIn page to see if maybe they've done anything exciting. Maybe they've participated in a fundraiser. Maybe their CEO has gotten an award, or their company's gotten an award, or they have a new diversity and inclusion initiative, something that you should know about when you meet with them. And then share something related to your company or your client's needs, and catch up on news and trending stories. These things will make that meeting go so much more smoothly. And this is something that I share with the younger professionals in the companies that I work at, to help them get over their anxiety of networking and meeting new people. There's different privacy settings on your accounts, so make sure they're visible to your networks of your choice. That's up to you, personal preference. There's pros and cons of being able to be found by the public or by making it private. Connect with new contacts on LinkedIn. This is something that I always recommend. When you meet someone, either in a virtual or in-person setting, make a note or keep their business card handy and write something down about them. And then when you go back and you connect with them, send them a personalized message on LinkedIn. And don't be afraid to ask for a follow-up meeting to connect and talk about ways in which you can help each other advance your goals or your career or your personal development. These are really important things. If not, the virtual call, the networking event that you went to really kind of goes to waste if you don't do that after the event follow-up. And using LinkedIn is one of the ways to do that. Sometimes I'll send a handwritten note. Sometimes I'll send an email. It depends on who I'm connecting with. Sometimes I'll call them. But LinkedIn's a great place to start. That way you keep that virtual Rolodex up to date. So in conclusion, having a great profile and a great online presence is not enough. It's just a start. It's a beginning to communicating with your connections. Checking in regularly and sharing meaningful content consistently is super important. And it's your activities that make the difference between standing still and realizing success, whatever that may be. Maybe that's professional success. Maybe it's just feeling more connected to the community, getting involved with new volunteer opportunities, leadership opportunities, or maybe it's just becoming a better version of yourself. But making your personal brand and networking a priority and keeping focused on what your goals are will be super important, especially during this time when we're working from home and we're not connected in person. All right, and now we'll go forward with Q&A. Does anyone have a question or anything that they wanted to add or share, any tips of things that have been working?
I think Ramona had a question.
Sure, it's actually just a comment. First of all, thank you for an excellent presentation. You know, I've been in the workforce for 30 years and I still learned a whole lot, and I am active on a few of these social media sites. So just an excellent presentation. I just wanted to chat a little bit about corporations having social media policies within their organizations and the importance of making certain that each individual understands the social media policy. And for some of them, there's some small print that indicates that they can access all of your social media sites. So they should be cautious with what they're posting on all of their social media sites, just in case, you know, someone has access to it or wants to, you know, investigate or explore a little bit more about each individual.
That's a great point, Ramona. Definitely something to keep in mind and to look at. If you don't have access to that policy, you can ask your HR manager or your supervisor. General counsel at larger companies will be able to share that. But that's definitely something to keep in mind, because a lot of times what you post is representative of the company and it's not your personal posts or personal beliefs. So that's something that can get you in a lot of hot water, and also goes back to doing that audit of your social media, especially if you're looking for a job. You may want to make some things private. You may want to turn some things off, delete some things. If there's 20-year-old pictures of you bonging beers at a concert at Lollapalooza, you probably want to take that down now. So, but that's a great point. Thanks, Ramona. Any other tips or points to share?
So I have a question. So
Sure.
been on LinkedIn a long time, right? Update when job changes. But how often should we be updating our profile? So I know the posting should be close to daily, but as far as refreshing our profile.
I think as you get new responsibilities in your job or you have a new experience that you want to share, maybe let's say you don't switch jobs and you've been there for 10 years, but you take a training on CRM or you get a certificate for some sort of process or procedure. Maybe you become Lean Six Sigma, for example. Those are things you would want to share. You probably don't want to share that you ran the Akron Marathon, even though that's an awesome accomplishment. That would be something more for your Facebook. Something you could share, though, that is personal but is professional as well of interest is maybe if you became the board chair of a volunteer nonprofit board, or you're the chair of a committee for the American Heart Association or the Red Cross. Those are all leadership positions that you would want to share. So I would say that it needs to be notable and that it needs to show your additional skills and expertise. You can also add to your profile and disable it from notifying all of your contacts that you updated it. So if you're going in and making a bunch of adjustments, you probably want to disable that until you're done so that they're not seeing that you updated your profile over and over again. So there's some tricky things to be careful with as you're in there. You want to check your settings as you're making updates, definitely. That's a great question, Anna. So Lisa has a question. What if you have two positions, for example? I own my own business and I work in an official capacity for another company, and I share time between the two. How do I represent this on my LinkedIn without being confusing? That's a great question that I do not exactly have the answer for. If anybody in the room has an answer, I think what I might consider doing is setting up two separate LinkedIn accounts and using those separately and sharing relevant information separately. Does anybody else have any other feedback about how you would do that? You could use, so if you set up two LinkedIn accounts, you use your work email for the one and your and another email for the other, and keep them separate. And then that way you can tailor them to your audience for those two positions. I think that would probably be the best way without confusing it and without sharing irrelevant information with the your contacts from one versus the other. Does that make sense? Great. Any other questions or concerns?
It looks like there was another question in the chat. If you know
Okay.
someone who has recently viewed your profile, are there any steps that you should take? Do you recommend connecting if you're not already connected, or reaching out? Great question.
I love this question because it's fascinating to me to see who checks my profile. Now, there's a couple different things to know about this. If you have LinkedIn Premium, you can usually see everyone who is viewing your profile. Sometimes, though, people can put it in a privacy mode or a mode where it just says where they work. So you can't tell exactly who it was. Not much you can do about that. It's a public space. That's why you have to control your privacy settings to a way that you're comfortable. If somebody connects to me and I think they look interesting, or it's somebody that I'd want to meet, but maybe they didn't ask me to connect, I'll request that I connect with them and maybe even send them a note. Hey, I saw you were looking at my profile. Let me know if you want to set aside some time to talk. Maybe we can get to know each other better. If it's somebody and I see that they're from a foreign country, their name looks suspicious, like they might be trying to attempt a phishing scam or something else, I will just ignore it and leave it be. So I would be selective about who you connect with. But it's a good idea to look at that and see who's looking at you. Sometimes they're recruiters looking to see, and if they are a recruiter and they don't reach out, I don't bother reaching out to them because I figure I don't have what they're looking for to just move along. So I would say in a case-by-case basis, yes, you could definitely reach out and connect with them, but it has to make sense. Great question. Any other questions? Let's see, we got some new messages.
So one trick that I've learned over the past years, if you go to linkedin.com/alumni, that will automatically pull up your college or university and show you alumni, and you can
Yes.
based on location, companies. That's one of those I learned from our career center way back when. You don't hear about too much.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I do that. And I also look, you can even drill down to which college, like the College of Business, the Arts and Science College. And then I'll even do it for my high school. Because you never know where, especially if you went to school locally and you're still living in that town, you never know where those folks might be working. A lot of them have really developed into high-level professionals that it's good to keep in touch with. And then the other one that I look at frequently is the people you may know section. That's a good one to scroll through, or connect people you may want to connect with. Usually those are second degree connections. I'll just do that when I'm sitting, waiting on hold for something, or in a doctor's office, or in line at the car wash. You can make the most of those little snippets of spare time and connect with a couple new people, or at least attempt to connect with a couple new people every so often. All right, anything else? I think we're through all of the questions. Does anyone have any other questions or anecdotes they'd like to share, or struggles they're facing during this strange time? All right, well, thank you, everyone. Anna will be sharing the slides and my contact information. Feel free, Anna, to share my contact information, and please feel free to connect with me and let me know if I can help you in any way. We've got to stick together and help each other as women and members of the community. So I'm here for you, and I'm happy to help you in any way that I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Margaret. Such
You're
a great
welcome.
and lots of good things in there, and a lot of takeaways. So the comments, I think you see the chat, lots of thank yous in there.
Oh, good. And there's also a list of resources at the end of the presentation, and there's a PDF of a white paper that I had downloaded on LinkedIn that Anna can share with you as well.
Perfect. And thank you for being willing to share those slides and
You're welcome. You're welcome. And if anybody, if anybody has a group that they'd like me to present to at their office, or their young professionals for their company, I'm always happy to help do that and share this information, because it's something that's becoming a little bit of a lost art for the younger folks. So we have to help them along. Not to sound stodgy and old. So, well, thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And it was nice connecting with you. What a great way to start the day.
Awesome. Be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn, and hope to see you at another Chamber and WNLI event soon. Enjoy your day. You get a few minutes back, and hope to see you soon, either in person or again on Zoom.
Thanks, everyone.
The event center as well that joined us.